sci-fi film called AfterEarth. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. Due to the rapid destruction of Earth, the Uniting Ranger Corps was formed to facilitate the evacuation of the planet and lead people to their new settlement in Nova Prime. Soon, the people discovered that they were not alone on the planet. Aliens, who intend to take control of Nova Prime, have released monstrous predators called Ursas to kill humans. Although the Ursas are essentially blind, they efficiently find humans through the pheromones they secrete when frightened. Humans once again face the threat of extinction, but Rangers averted it after Prime Commander Cypher Rage learned to suppress his fears to hide from Ursas. The technique, which renders Cypher invisible to the Ursas, has since been called ghosting. At the Ranger camp, Cypher's son Kitai trains hard to be a Ranger like his father. However, Commander Velen informs him later that he won't be promoted to a Ranger despite his excellent test scores in the classroom because he is not doing well in the field. That night, Cypher returns home from an extended mission. During dinner, Kitai informs Cypher that he didn't advance to a Ranger. Cypher assures him that Velen made the right decision and the commander would have promoted Kitai if he was ready. Later, Cypher informs his wife, Faya, that he will be going to a planet called Iphitus the next day to train cadets. He will then announce his retirement after its completion so that he can be with his family. Faya encourages Cypher to talk to Kitai as his father, not his commanding officer, because the boy wants to reach out to him. She believes that Kitai is in despair because he blames himself for what happened to his sister, Senshi. Later, Cypher orders Kitai to pack his bags because he's taking him to Iphitus. As they prepare for the journey the next day, a ranger with an amputated leg approaches Cypher to express his gratitude for saving him and 4 others during an intense battle with Ursas. The man was able to see his baby's face for the first time because of Cypher's heroic act. The ranger then asks others to help him stand up so he can salute Cypher. During the journey to Iphitus, Kitai tells Cypher that he's been reading Moby Dick, a book that Cypher used to read with Senshi. Cypher advises Kitai to take a nap, but Kitai decides to wander around the ship instead. Kitai soon comes across a restricted area where they are keeping an Ursa, which the Rangers intend to use to train cadets to ghost. When the Ranger in charge of the Ursa learns that Kitai is Cypher's son, he dares Kitai to approach the Ursa's cell to see if he can suppress his fears. As Kitai slowly approaches the shell, he recalls the time his sister put him in a glass containment unit to keep the Ursa from smelling him. Before Kitai can touch the shell, the Ursa roars up, smelling Kitai's pheromones. Not long, Cypher instructs the Rangers to be on full alert. He then tells Kitai to put on his life suit and strap himself to his seat. Afterward, Cypher goes to the cockpit and warns the pilots that they could be heading towards an asteroid storm because he detected graviton vibrations in the ship's hull. Soon, their flight becomes turbulent as the ship glides through an asteroid shower. Cypher instructs the pilots to go through a wormhole to travel to the closest anchorage. Upon their arrival, the pilots discover that their ship sustained heavy damage, so they immediately look for a planet to land the ship. They soon locate a planet, but the ship's computer warns them that it is unfit for habitation. Despite the warning, Cypher orders the pilots to land the plane there when he learns that the ship can no longer travel through another wormhole. As the ship enters the planet's atmosphere, Kitai panics, but Cypher tells him to take deep breaths to calm down. Suddenly, Cypher is carried away by a gust of wind as the ship begins to break apart. Soon, Kitai passes out as the ship crashes to the unknown planet. Soon after regaining consciousness, Kitai looks around for survivors and finds his father, who is unconscious but still breathing. When Cypher wakes up, Kitai reports that the ship's tail, which contains the Ursa, is gone. Cypher instructs Kitai to find the emergency beacon in the cockpit, but they soon learn that it's damaged. After going through the ship's inventory, Cypher notes that there's another beacon in the ship's tail, which the computer located about 100 kilometers away. However, both of his legs are broken, so he instructs Kitai to retrieve the beacon. Cypher then hands Kitai 6 vials of air filtration inhalers to help him breathe more comfortably in the environment. Cypher assures Kitai that he'll see everything he sees because there are cameras in his life suit and backpack. Then, Cypher informs him that they are on Earth and warns him that every creature on the planet has evolved to kill humans. Kitai then recalls watching an Ursa attack his sister while he is inside the glass container. When Kitai asks Cypher about the Ursa from their ship, Cypher tells him that the creature probably died in the crash, but he instructs the boy to assume that it is still out there. When Katai gets outside the ship, Cypher instructs him to get down on his knees to calm down. He then advises his son to concentrate on the moment and use his senses to overcome his fear. Soon, Katai goes on his way to find the ship's tail. Upon reaching the top of a cliff, he sees cattle grazing freely on the hills and countless birds soaring through the sky. Cypher releases several probes to find the Ursa. Cypher then notifies Katai that the temperatures on the planet drop to freezing level at night, but there are several hotspots. Katai must reach a hotspot each night to avoid freezing to death. After scanning his injury, Cypher thinks about taking painkillers, but he decides against it when he sees a warning that it could make him drowsy and impair his vision. When he hears Katai calling out to him, Cypher suddenly recalls the time Senshi contacted him while he was away on a mission. Senshi told him that a boy lent her a copy of Moby Dick. When Senshi asked if people really liked whales on Earth, Cypher explained that humans hunted them for oil. While walking around the forest, Katai notices that his suit suddenly turns black. Cypher notes that it's equipped with motion sensors and informs Katai that a life form is headed in his direction. Soon, a large baboon emerges. Cypher instructs Katai to stay still, but the boy throws a rock toward it to scare it away. Not long, several other baboons come out of hiding. The monkeys start throwing rocks at Katai, so he runs. Cypher guides Katai to the river to keep the primates from following him. After Katai gets away from the baboons, Cypher notices toxins in Katai's bloodstream through the monitor, so he tells the boy to check if he's cut. Katai notices a leech on his hand, so he immediately takes it off. Katai soon starts to feel the effects of the toxin, so Cypher immediately instructs him to administer the antitoxin. Despite losing his senses, Katai manages to inject himself with the antidote. However, Katai is still not able to move because the venom from the leech is still in his bloodstream. Hours later, Cypher urges Katai to get up and run to a hotspot because the temperature is starting to drop. When Katai gets up, Cypher prompts him to run 10 kilometers within 50 minutes. As Katai runs through the forest, the computer notifies Cypher that he needs an arterial shunt to treat his leg, so he cuts his leg open to insert a tube. As he endures the pain, Cypher recalls Senshi's 19th birthday. He is still away on a mission, so he has to communicate with her through a screen. Senshi asks him to help her blow the candle, so he points out that he can't blow the candle through the screen. Faya persuades him to go along, so Cypher decides to blow on the screen. After the candles go out, young Katai emerges and laughs cheerfully. When Katai reaches the hotspot, he checks his equipment and discovers that 2 vials of his inhalers are broken, but he doesn't tell his dad. Cypher tells him to use one, so he only has 2 vials remaining. That night, Katai asks Cypher how he learned to ghost. Cypher notes that an Ursa once attacked him and impaled his shoulder with its pincer. As he fought with it, they ended up falling to the river. The Ursa stayed on top of him to drown him, but when Cypher thought he was dying, he pulled out the Ursa's pincer and realized that it could no longer find him because he was no longer afraid. He then concluded that fear is not real, even though danger exists. The next day, Cypher tells Katai to head to the waterfalls after seeing numerous corpses of primates through the probes. When Katai gets there, Cypher asks him to count his inhalers. Cypher soon discovers that Katai only has 2 vials left, so he checks his computer to see how much he needs to reach his destination. The computer shows him that Katai would need 3.5 vials to reach the site on foot, but he would only need 2 vials if he sky jumps. Cypher orders Katai to head back to the ship, but Katai insists on continuing the mission after remembering the day the Ursa killed his sister. Katai thinks that Cypher sees him as a coward because he didn't come out of the glass container to help Senshi. So he points out to Cypher that Senshi gave him instructions to stay in the container no matter what happens. Katai then blames Cypher for Senshi's death because he was not there to protect them when the Ursa attacked. Despite his father's instructions to turn around, Kai jumps off the cliff and uses his life suit to glide through the air. Soon, a large condor chases after him, so Katai takes a dive and tries to hide behind the waterfalls. However, the condor attacks him as soon as he comes out of the falls. Cypher immediately loses the video and audio communication with him. When Katai wakes up, he finds himself in a nest lying next to the condor's chicks. As he tries to leave, he sees several lions trying to get inside, but the condor attacks them. A lion soon enters the nest, but Katai manages to throw it out by evading its attacks. The condor grabs another lion that gets inside. When a third lion tries to attack Katai, he uses his cutlass to punch a hole in the ground. A few minutes later, Katai gets down from the tree and sees the condor mourning the death of its chicks. Soon, Katai uses his last vial of the inhaler. While traversing the river on a small raft he built, Katai falls asleep and dreams about Senshi. He tells Senshi that he was about to come out of the glass containment unit to help her, but Senshi contends that he did the right thing by staying inside. Katai mentions that Cypher thinks he should have tried to save her, but Senshi notes that Cypher is just mad at himself. Katai starts reciting parts of Moby Dick to Senshi, but she urges him to wake up. When he awakens, Katai notices that the temperature in his surroundings is dropping. He tries to find a hot spot, but he falls unconscious in the middle of the forest. As the snow starts to cover his body, something drags him to a hot spot. In the morning, Katai sees the condor lying on the ground. He realizes that the bird saved him, so he expresses his gratitude, but he finds out that it died in the process. Katai eventually reaches the ship's tail as the effect of his inhaler starts to wear off. He immediately takes inhalers from the compartment and grabs a cutlass. As Katai investigates the area, he discovers that the Ursa has broken out of its shell. Katai immediately contacts his father when he finds a communicator. Although Cypher can hear him, Katai can't hear his father's response. Katai manages to find the beacon, but he can't fire it because of a disturbance in the atmosphere. Katai gets frustrated and starts smashing things with the cutlass, but he eventually calms down and realizes that he has to climb an active volcano to avoid the interference when he fires the beacon. As Katai heads to the volcano, he comes across a corpse of a ranger. Although Katai can't hear him, Cypher notes that the Ursa put the corpse there to trigger his pheromones to track its prey. Katai soon starts running when he reaches the base of the volcano. Katai hasn't come across the Ursa yet, but Cypher sees the Ursa getting close to his son on his monitor. After failing to launch the beacon again, Katai enters a cave to hide from the Ursa. As he wanders around quietly in the cave, Katai sees the Ursa laying in wait for him, but it gets trapped under a rock when it attacks him. Katai starts running when he sees the Ursa breaking free from the rocks. While running from the creature, Katai falls into a pool of water. When he emerges from the water, he finds himself inside a pit, so he immediately climbs up. On his way to the top, the Ursa suddenly jumps out of the water and grabs Katai's foot. Katai sticks his cutlass between the walls of the pit to hang on to it as he tries to break free from the Ursa's grip. Katai keeps climbing when the Ursa momentarily goes back underwater. After getting out of the pit, Katai tries to fire the beacon, but the Ursa takes hold of him and slams him against the rocks before hurling him to the ground. As Katai lies on the ground in pain, he recalls the day Senshi protected him. He then remembers Cypher's instructions to focus on the moment and make use of his senses. Soon, Katai becomes invisible to the Ursa because he has overcome his fear. As the creature searches for him, Katai gets up and grabs his cutlass. He then slashes the Ursa's foot and dodges the projectile shooting out of the Ursa's mouth. When Katai sees the beacon under the Ursa, he tries to grab it, but the creature kicks it away. Katai jumps on top of the Ursa and stabs it with his cutlass. As the Ursa heads toward the cliff, Katai pulls out his cutlass to stab it again. Katai finally fires the beacon after the creature drops dead. Soon, rangers arrive to rescue Cypher, who has fallen unconscious due to his injury. Upon their return to Nova Prime, Katai immediately goes to the infirmary where his father is being treated. When Cypher sees Katai, he orders the rangers to help him get up. Cypher struggles to stand, but he manages to salute his son for his bravery. Instead of